Okay, cool.
Hello.
Hi. Okay, I'm Toby, and this is
Matteo Polato.
So we are going to talk about a project which we are working on at the moment, which is in production. It's connected to the piece here, but it's not about the piece here, the piece that's in the installation. It's got connections, but it's not. It's a completely different project, completely different research project. But it's a cross-media project, so we're writing a book, making a film, an interactive installation, and making an album. So it's a really huge, sprawling beast of a project, which will probably work over 3, 4, maybe 5 years. So I'm gonna start. I'll just take the format. I'm going to start. I'm going to read you a prepared text. It'll take a couple of minutes just to give a sensibility of what the project's about, and then we're going to play 12 short videos which explicate and explain what the project's kind of investigative arcs are, like the research arcs of the project, and we'll talk through those. So yeah, I'll start with the prepared text, and then we'll get that out of the way, and then we'll get a bit more freestyle and not have the boring kind of more academic stuff. You know? So the project, Phantom Channel, is the name of the project, and it listens to and amplifies the way in which frequencies in the form of sound, unsound, and music have been utilised to connect us to otherworldly and occulted intelligences, and uses this information to better understand the evolution of AI. Throughout the course of Western history, a range of politics, cultural practices, legal frameworks, and belief systems have been composed around pushing non-human intelligences to and beyond the accepted boundaries of rationalism and logic. The list of supposedly aberrant phenomena includes cryptids, cosmic forces, animals, demons, ghosts, UAVs, psychic entities, psychedelic experiences, and more recently, artificial intelligent agents, and deepfakes. The purpose of driving this kind of thinking and these practices to the edge of collective perception is that in and through this process, boundary markers are set that demarcate a scientific and observable space for us to reside in. More than this, such demarcation of space, time, and process allows us to identify with the notion that we are rational, self-centered beings who navigate the world through reason. AI is of particular interest here as it radically alters the mapping of otherworldliness and the position of irrational entities and belief systems that had previously held stable ground in the hinterlands of cultural consciousness. Because of the very proximity of AI in our everyday lives, from searching for cheap holidays to interacting with virtual partners, and from producing a soundtrack in 2 minutes to predicting future natural disasters, it means that many of our ancient fears and anxieties about non-human intelligence are now projected onto it, so onto AI. In order to predict our own future relationships with algorithms and neural networks as they drive towards modes of sentience that are not human, but in fact make their own differentiated claim to consciousness altogether, it is instructive to understand how we have in the past castigated non-human agency into the hidden graves of the uncanny valley. But it is those very entities that we thought were dead and buried that are now coming back to life through technological means. As such, the Revenant are becoming our intimate companions, virtual pop stars, data twins, and spectral chatbots. Research on such preternatural resonances cannot be structured in linear evolutionary and causal progressions, as both magical thinking and artificial neural networks follow different lateral logics to create meaning. Using a frequency-based filter, we have composed 16 channels of investigation that allow us to pitch historical arts of thinking and practice from marginalized and occulted peripheries to mainstream acceptance by the manifestation of emergent technologies such as AI, quantum computing, and immersive systems. For the investigative arts, hearing and touching are employed as the prime sensory modalities. Instead of using ocular language, so visual language, and logic that The project uses the oscillatory, the waveform, and the frequency-based as filters of reasoning. They become a connective lexicon, a sonic grammar that reveals new thinking and practices about spectral presences and forms of sentience that reside at the edges of perception. An important part of mapping the hinterlands of rationalism is amplifying the frictions and productive contradictions that play between humans' longitudinal search for connection with otherness, with the strong desire to establish clear separation and hierarchy. And it is our persistent rhythms of projecting the human at the apex of this hierarchy that this project seems to address. Flattening the science, hyperstition, arcane beliefs, constructed languages, technologies, and esoteric rituals into a connective tissue composed by and through sonic philosophy, this project is a mixing desk of phantom channels. So that's the opening gambit. So there's quite a lot of information there to take on board. So we're just going to talk about there's 16 arcs of investigation that will comprise the book, the film, etc. We're just going to talk to 3 of those. So we're just going to kind of outline 3 of those arcs. And we're going to start with the arc of hosts and disembodied voices. So do you want to...
Are you going to introduce the arc as well?
No. Oh, I am going to. Yeah, good shout. Good shout. So the first arc is concerned with voices and signals that have been disconnected from their original sources and investigates the alternative carriers, modulation techniques and resonant channels that disembodied voices and signals communicate through. The arc also connects a diverse set of resonant mechanisms from the human stomach to the wooden dummy and from the radio to the artificial intelligence algorithm to explore instances throughout history where distributed sonic effect generates agency, presence and subjectivity. So we're going to start with
gastromancy. Yeah. So the first element of the arc starts from very far away in the past. And it's the ancient Greek divinatory system of the gastromancy. It was a very niche, but had a real long-lasting influence on the practices later. And it's about the oracle divining the deity or spirit through the bowel or stomach sounds and noises. The idea is that the spirit or the god or demon, whatever, is able to possess bodily, the bowels, the internal organs of the oracle, and uses noises to communicate their voices in the material world. So we have a little video demonstration. Okay.
These are live sounds, stomach sounds. Well, they're not live and direct right now, although the stomach is a bit. It's not, but they were recorded.
Well, it's very interesting for a number of reasons. First, I think there is this aspect of like the sacred or like the divine, the otherworldly, but it's manifested through the most basic and even low aspect of the human body. So you have this kind of like, I don't know, strange presence between these two parts. And it's also one of the first, potentially, instances of the disembodied voice, the charismatic sound. So like you don't see the source of the sound, so that it opens up to all sorts of like imagination and pareidolia, and so the manifestation of the voice is something that from the noise. And another aspect that's going to run through all the arts is the idea of agency, how the human body might lose their agency to another worldly agency, an entity that takes over. And it's something we're going to find even in AI, and the idea of like noise and interference as something that creates meaning. It becomes signal.
So this is the first point of the arc. There's 4 points on each arc. So we look back to an ancient process or person or practice or technology, and then we trace an arc through to AI, and we think about how that connects to the way that we deal with contemporary technologies. So this one goes back to ancient Greek times, as Matteo said, and it directly influences the next one, which is ventriloquism. Ventriloquism comes from gastromancy. There's a lot of direct correlations between the history of gastromancy and ventriloquism. So I don't think you know what ventriloquism is, so I'll play the video and then we can, and then I'll speak about it afterwards.
Everyone will pay your come. And you will come back. Not allowed, Michael. Not allowed. You'll be the fucking chain will be years and years and years and years. That wouldn't suit me. But you tell them the truth. You tell them it wasn't my fault. What sort of dummy do you think I am? You shot him, didn't you? Yes, but that was in self-defense. He was trying to rob me. Well, that's for the judge. Poor Sylvester. Such a charming fellow. They tell me he was going. The other hospital, what's that to you? Well, looks like I've been needing a new partner. You don't mean that. You're joking. Liar. I'm my career to think of. You wouldn't tell me that. Would you? You wouldn't do that to me. Oh, wouldn't I? I wouldn't let you. Sounds like the next one. You're finished. Finished. I tell them the truth. Or if I tell them the news, they can tell you. Try to see what happens. They put you in a madhouse. But not little Hildo. Oh no. I'm going to team up with Sylvester. Maybe they'll come and visit you. You know, private show for the lonely.
It's amazing. So speaks about ventriloquism. It speaks a lot about our anxiety around dolls and about how the voice travels. So we go from gastromancy with voices residing in the stomach, coming from spectral forces. And then we've got the voice being directly moving to another object, and that other object gaining sentience, gaining agency. So as you saw in the video there, the doll starts gaining some agency within the scene. And as we know, there's hundreds of films, but there's a load of horror films, where about dolls that get haunted or gain agency. Megan, I don't know if anyone's seen Megan recently, about the AI doll, but then there's also obviously Chucky, Chucky. Those ideas, and all that anxiety, human anxiety about things that resemble humans, gaining human-like agency, which very much speaks to our resonant anxieties around AI and the uncanny. So next one is you.
Okay, we have voice traveling another object. In this case, we get more like contemporary modern periods, and the voice inhabiting audio devices. EVP stands for electronic voice phenomena, and it is a kind of umbrella term for a set of practices in spiritualism or like occult practices. It's about communicating with spirits or with the dead and ghosts through the use of audio devices, mostly like radios or sound recorders, TVs. And the idea is that spirits are able to use noise, interference, distortions, all the things that usually we consider like the unwanted aspects of audio, the recording, audio reproduction. Use those as kind of raw material that can kind of modulate and manipulate to compose messages and voices. And we're going to have a video here. It's a demonstration by Fredrik Jürgensson, a Ukrainian Swedish artist who is recognized as the kind of originator of this technique from the late 50s. And it's going to be in German. It's not, you don't understand German.
No one is going to understand, but you're going to see.
It's not about that. You can see the kind of practice and him
waving his hands around and taking
listening closely to this very noisy, distorted tapes and finding something that kind of resembles voice, interpreting it very close, like deep listening.
Mach es nochmal. Das ist Deutsch. Hochgelade. Ja, Rubino interessiert mich alljährlich. Also denke, dieses Gemisch ist ein Beweis, dass kein Rundfunk solche Sendungen gibt. Noch einmal. Noch einmal. Noch einmal vielleicht. Ja.
You got some deepfakes as well in the film.
So yeah, this is a technique that nowadays is super common, like ghost hunting, groups and practices. It's one of the most important practices, these kind of things. And the practitioner records a bit of audio and then listens back over and over again to find voice. Yeah. So the pareidolia is like finding a message in noise patterns. Noise becomes like methodology. And again, this is the idea of agency, right? Something from noise interference that becomes a message through this kind of like disembodied use of technology.
Which takes us to Thanabots. So that's the end of the arc. So Thanabots are like grief tech, dead bots. So they're chatbots trained on dead people. So it's people who've died. They're what they call vector donors. So before people die, they agree to have recordings, information, videos, etc. They're fed into an AI or into a chatbot. Then that chatbot will be trained on that person. So it's used in what's called grief tech. So it helps people deal with grief after a loved one has passed. What's interesting is that Laurie Anderson has made a dead bot based on Lou Reed. But she's also made one based on herself. So she's made a chatbot based on herself. Right. And she's made a chatbot, which is called a Thanabot, after Thanatos, on Lou Reed. And those two bots compose music together, which I think is absolutely beautiful. I think it's amazing. She's actually just played in Manchester 2 nights ago, actually. So we're just going to see a little bit of Laurie.
Found out that he was terminally ill with colon cancer. He spent a lot of time speaking with his wife about what would happen after his death.
She said, Michael, one of the things I'm really going to miss is talking to you. The sound of your voice.
That sparked an idea for Bomber. With the help of a friend based in the US, it took the 61-year-old entrepreneur 2 months to build an interactive AI version of himself.
We have you say 300 different phrases that capture, I'll call it your emotional voice. So sometimes you say, I love you, or you say, I love you, and they say, oh, the door's open, and we capture all that, and then we compress all that and make an AI out of it.
Bomber's AI voice, which cost $15,000 to set up, can answer questions and tell stories without regurgitating pre-recorded answers. He's excited about his digital immortality. His wife, however, is more apprehensive.
So Sorry, we were going to go with Laurie, and then we changed out the last minute there because it just gives a better overview of the process of how they're made and produced. But that kind of finishes the art. So we've got the disembodied voices that start in the stomach.
Right.
That disembodied voice travels through to the dummy, to the wooden dummy, moves into newer technologies such as the radio, the TV, and then it ends up in AI. So it's kind of this arc from the stomach through to artificial intelligence, and that's what obviously what we're kind of investigating. So that's the first arc. What's the second? So we're going to go on to the second one now, which is composing a martial ontology.
So an aspect of sound. This arc addresses the crucial role the modes of sonic production and transmission have played in modern history as apparatus of perception, coercion, and control. The ephemerality of sound, the ambiguity of acousmatic perception, and at the same time its primordial connection with survival, threat, and fear make the auditory sensorium a battleground where controlling the means of sonic production equates to a distribution of agency.
I'm so jealous that you can read that in the start.
The art demonstrates, I'm a nice preacher, demonstrate how both military institutions and actors of disinformation have assimilated sonic techniques and highlight how recent AI technologies are capable of synthesizing voice clones virtually identical to the original, problematize our relationships to notions of authenticity and reality. So we're going to start. This arc is less broad in terms of like temporal span. Very famous, one of the world's radio play of Orson Welles, aired in CBS radio station 1938. Was audio play, the radio play rendition of the H.G. Wells' one of the world's novel about alien invasion. And Wells, what it does, very like pioneering, this kind of like the medium radio play. It uses forms of breaking news in fake radio programs. So there's like these radio programs and music being played. There's breaking news. They said, oh, there is an invasion going on. And apparently, what the myth says that this creates all sort of mass hysteria, and the listeners that start to like call the police, running away, running from the city, hiding, and so on. Also, Wells had to publicly apologize for this days after, and we have a little clip of
the audio on this is pretty shonky, so you might not understand all the idea. It's a bit hard to get hold of.
Some slight smoke in the woods bordering the Millstone River, probably fire started by camping. Well, you ought to see some action soon. One of the companies is deploying on the left flank. A quick thrust to the low the ocean. Wait a minute, I see something on top of the cylinder. No, it's nothing but a job. Now the troops are on the edge of the woman's farm. 7,000 armed men closing in on an all-metal troop. That's tough, rather. Well, wait, that wasn't a shadow, it's something moving. Solid metal, kind of a steel-like affair rising up on the cylinder. Going higher and higher. What? It's standing on legs. Actually rearing up on a sort of metal framework. Now it's reaching above the trees and the searchlights are on. Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a great announcement to make. Incredible as it may seem, both the observations of science and the evidence of our eyes lead to the inescapable assumption that those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight are the vanguard of an invading army from the planet Mars.
So,
They caused a riot in New Jersey, but only in New Jersey.
so apparently, like recent studies said that the scale of this mass hysteria was much less than what the myth says. But from this first point of view, this demonstrates the power of radio and the voice through radio as sort of like super powerful means and medium to convey anxiety, fear, imagination. It's something like McLuhan as well said, like radio has always been the preferred medium for dictators because through just like having just the voice coming through is such a more powerful and effective. And this talks again about like it is about voice, the power of sound through loudspeaker, and what this can become a medium, even unwillingly, in this case, for disinformation, for illusion, for deception, and how the rest of the art is going to talk about how this is going to be exploited for political or social means.
So the deception part of that is the kind of really important part in terms of how sound is used to deceive. The Ghost Army is the next point on the arc. So this is it jumps 1945. Yeah, 1945. I think it was May, April 1945. The Ghost Army come it's very late into the war, Second World War, and it's creatives. It's 1,100 creatives from New York, Los Angeles, predominantly, other cities, but predominantly those two cities from famous art schools in both cities. And it's painters, it's musicians, sculptors, and creative designers in general. And they're basically there to create camouflage and create deception. So deception techniques. So Ellsworth Kelly, who I guess some people have heard of, very famous American painter, was part of the Ghost Army, for example, and was working on the dazzle ships, working on camouflage patterns, working on rubber tanks. They'd made rubber tanks so that when the Nazis were doing reconnaissance, they'd look down and they'd think there were tanks there, they'd think there were planes there. They were also they were the first battle DJs, because they were making records, and then they were playing the sounds from loudspeakers on the front line where there was a gap. So if there's a gap where there's Allied forces are here, and they can see, wow, there's actually a big gap there. If the Germans came, the Nazis could just come through there. So they put these speaker networks up to convince them that there was activity, that there was 10,000 troops. And they would make the recordings, so that's what we're going to hear now. Everything should have this kind of intro. Walking into a shop, you should have this.
Every sound that is part of the bridge building operation is picked up by this microphone, carried through this cable, and recorded inside this sound recording truck. On this turntable, exactly the way a phonograph record is made. While it's being recorded, the sound is monitored over this loudspeaker. In this way, they can tell that they're picking up exactly the sounds they want, with complete deceptive fidelity.
Deceptive fidelity.
So that really interesting, kind of important juncture in the war in many ways. They weren't a fighting force as such, so they were always really vulnerable, because if they were discovered, they would have just got wiped out. Really, they didn't carry arms, they weren't there to do that. What's also really interesting with them is it's the first time that en masse you get the assimilation of creatives by the military in that manner. Not creativity is being used often, and if you think the books. What was it? What book did the Nazis have? They had the
Mein Kampf.
No, they had what's his name? Not Sartre.
Nietzsche.
Nietzsche. It's Nietzsche. So they apparently Hitler had they all had Nietzsche books with them. They were made to carry Nietzsche. But so that there was already the use, but in terms of art and literature in military proceedings or military operations, but this is the first time where creators are assimilated fully en masse to be a part of the military machine, which then grows out of this. There's a huge art that grows out of this. We're not doing that, but there's a huge art. A lot of the work I do and the work in the show is about that assimilation of creatives, whether it's the IDF's, the Israeli Defense Forces use of Gordon Matt Clark and architecture, Deleuze and Guattari, Debord, boring big holes through houses to get to circumnavigate the streets rather than using the streets as a strategy is completely Deleuze and Guattari rhizome theory. I've actually met the guy, the IDF guy, Shimon Nava. I've been up for dinner with him. He actually confirmed that that's what they use those theories. So it's not like conjecture, that's completely raw. They use Guy Debord, they use like détournement. It's incredible. But that's that comes, I think, from this initial strategy. I'm just going to stop talking because I could go on forever about this. So that's the next point. So the next point after this is Wandering Soul.
Wonderful operation. It's even weirder and crazier for like use of like composition of sound. It was a psychological warfare operation conducted by the US military during the Vietnam War in the 60s, around the 60s. So basically they composed these electroacoustic compositions made of like eerie voices, processed sounds, very like horror, kind of typical horror soundtrack from the 60s, using electronic sound. They were diffused from helicopters in the Vietnamese forests, and were meant to be listened by the Viet Cong. They would have to be convinced that this was the sound, the voice of their deceived, the fallen comrades, and this was like a psyops aspect of making them like weaken the morale, like increasing the affections and so on. Yeah, you can listen to a little documentary on it.
So The Wandering Soul is the name of the tape. So they made tapes. It's also known as Ghost Tape number 10. Because they made 10, they started off with Arthur Brown Fire, the song from the 60s, and then they evolved to what we're going to quickly hear. But it's also straight, just as it's part, the PSYOPs operation was called the Urban Funk Campaign. The Urban Funk Campaign. So in the Vietnam War, all the PSYOPs, the sonic PSYOPs was part of that, which blows my mind. I mean, it's an amazing outfit. It's an amazing name for an outfit. Like, it's amazing music, but obviously, in the context, kind of weird. So here's the 1 minute from it.
Vietnam, 1968. A loudspeaker broadcasts the supposed cries of a Viet Cong who died in combat. His family call out to him, but he says, "It's too late, I'm dead." And he urges his comrades to leave the forest before they die like him.
Tôi đã về với mình đây để nói cho các bạn biết tôi đã
You also see that in Apocalypse Now, the famous Apocalypse that they don't play that, they play classical music, but it is actually from that technique, but they replace it with a different sonic composition.
Yeah, what's interesting is that is it like delays, reverb, sonic sound stretching, it's a typical electroacoustic music of the 60s, which has always been connected to the otherworldly, the alien, the subconscious, like that's why it's been used so widely in horror films, sci-fi and stuff. But this is such a Western-centric and colonialist approach. Like they were expecting that the Viet Cong would be deceived by this completely Western approach, but and it really happened. Why did it would have this kind of cultural references?
But the thing is, it kept them awake. So that also did this, but that also did the same thing, because if you keep people awake, their capacity to fight is not as great. So it worked in different ways. So, and then the last one in this arc is Jay-Z, which is a bit of a strange. Let me play it first, and then you'll see why.
You just fucking say about me, you little bitch. How do you know I graduated top of my class in the Navy SEALs, and I've been involved in numerous secret raids on Al-Qaeda, and I have over 300 confirmed kills. I train in guerrilla warfare, and I'm the top sniper in the entire U.S. Armed Forces. You are nothing to me but just another target. I will wipe you the fuck out with precision and lights of which has never been seen before on this earth. Run my fucking world. You think you can get away with saying that shit to me? Go with the internet. 50 jam fucker. As we speak, I'm contacting my secret network of spies across the USA. And your IP is being traced right now, so you better prepare for the storm. Make up the storm that wipes out the pit. The little thing you call your life. You're fucking dead, kid. I can be anywhere, anytime, and I can kill you in over 700 ways, and that's just with my bare hands. Not only am I exclusively trained in non-combat, but I have access to the entire arsenal of the United States Army.
So pretty ugly, pretty scary, pretty ugly. This is the first time that AI is used to simulate the human voice as a deepfake. So the first time that a well-known musician's voice has been used and put on the internet and gone viral. Obviously, I mean, it's interesting listening to the quality because the quality is terrible now compared to what you were talking about in terms of the like 11 Labs and those kind of services where you can retrain voices on like 2-3 minutes.
Sure.
You only need 2 or 3 minutes training data, and it's almost, you can't even tell the difference between your own voice and the one that's been synthesized. I mean, it's incredible. That's obviously earlier on, so 3 or 4 years ago, not great quality, but obviously still deceived a lot of people at the time. A lot of people thought that was Jay-Z. This also speaks to, again, it kind of speaks to it comes out the use of sound and music used in Guantanamo Bay, for example, to torture inmates. A lot of rap music was used, metal music was used, but then also there was Barney the Purple Dinosaur was used, Fleetwood Mac cover bands was used, electroacoustic compositions were used. They tried out a ton of different musical compositions in terms of torturing people, 24, 48, 72 hours of just non-stop repetitive music, short shackled down with their ankles down to the wrists, blacked out completely, not fed. So it's really super brutal. Actually comes from the UK. It's actually all those techniques, these multi-sensory techniques, comes from the US treatment of the IRA. So in the 70s. So that's what those five kind of sensory points were adopted by the UK to try and get information out of IRA inmate or people that they captured. And then obviously those have been utilised and developed further by US military and other militaries. So there's definitely a crossover in the art with Guantanamo and with that again the kind of deception. Sorry, I thought you were speaking.
Connecting back to the words, this worked, at least it's still cheaper because it was just voice. Probably wouldn't work if it was video. Like the voice alone can be so much more powerful.
But now it could. Because now you could do voice and video and they'd be absolutely, they are. Deepfakes are at a point where they're so advanced that it's implausible to tell whether it's a deepfake unless you have a really the diagnostics that are done are really, really high end. Back then, like 3 or 4 years ago, that wasn't possible. So again, it's that evolution of like technology as well as the advances are really fast. The velocity of change has gone crazy. So that finishes that arc. Let's get on to the last arc, which is the third one, which is rendering immortality from virtuosity. So, just a quick précis. This arc is concerned with the pursuit of technical virtuosity as a way to achieve artistic immortality, an immutable process that sublimates the artist's body and subjectivity outside the course of biological life. For centuries, musical performers have attempted to escape linear temporality by achieving a technical standard of virtuosity that positions them ahead of their time and thus outside of the regular flow of daily experience. So the first one we're going to look at is Tartini.
Tartini. So the first element of the arc is the trope of the artist, in particular musician, making a pact with the devil to ensure like unearth level of virtuosity and so to make their music immortal. This runs through the whole history of music, like from Middle Age, like Renaissance to Robert Johnson's bluesman and more. The case we have here is Giuseppe Tartini, a very important Italian composer from the early classical periods, early 1700s. And he was a composer and violinist, and he's recognized as one of the principal innovators of the technique of violin. And the virtuosist of violin that became like in the 1800s, like one of the biggest ones. Yeah, these instruments or virtuosistic playing. And his most famous piece is called sonata. It's called Devil's Throat, sonata for violin and piano. And he himself says that the music was channeled to him through in a dream by the devil itself, and he made a pact with the devil to reach this absolutely like incredible virtuosity and composition technique. And this is the his more renowned work, which is the one that has been recognized for. So he made it immortal in a way. So Tartini was also one of the first musicians talking about acoustics and harmonics and did very early studies on like the physical sound, like whatever. So this is like about like achieving a form of immortality through art, through music, which is something to consider like diabolical because like something that escapes death, escapes natural order. And in general, there's this theme, which is the idea of the artist, very kind of romantic theme, the idea of the artist which is possessed by art. So art is not something that is pertains to the individual, subjective mind of the artist, but is kind of like the artist just channeling something. And again, we have this idea of agency, an otherworldly agency that takes that inhabits something else, that is seeing all the other aspects of our arts, and this idea of art as something that comes from a sort of otherworldly place, which directly connects to the next element.
Which is Rosemary Brown. So this is 1970, this is Rosemary, apparently very average piano player with no formal training, who started channeling. The Liszt is one of them. Liszt, Chopin, Stravinsky, Bach, Beethoven, Schumann, Rachmaninoff. So she effectively spoke to these composers, and they helped her pen, or they penned new compositions through her, and then she played them. So she, as we'll see through the video, became basically a conduit for them becoming immortal. And let's have a quick look at Rosemary on a talk show.
Do you see them in your mind's eye?
No, I see it objectively, but if I close my eyes, I can still see them, so, which shows that I'm not really seeing with my physical eyes. But sometimes they're just as clear as you are sitting beside me.
And they're mainly composers, are they?
No, they're people from all walks of life.
But the book, The Unfinished Symphony, you seem to deal not only with composers that you felt you contacted, but which helped you compose music, or did you compose it through them?
Well, they compose the music, and then they transmit it to me in
interesting, lazy for many reasons. Obviously, I mean, the fact that she can, irrelevant of whether she's channeling anything or any otherworldly spirits. I mean, the fact that she has the virtuosity to be able to compose around 16, 17, 20 different composers and make copies and play it is already mind-blowing. You know, it's like being able to not being really trained in languages, but then being able to speak 25 languages. You know, kind of like and almost perfect. So pretty interesting. Second point of our arc. The third point we've got is Hatsune Miku.
Just play it.
Going to play it. Okay.
So Hatsune Miku is one of the best-selling artists in Japan, one of the biggest transmedia EPs. And it's a virtual idol. It doesn't exist as a singer. It started in 2007 as a sound bank for Yamaha Vocaloid, which is a vocal synthesizer. But then, and at the beginning it was just like a sound bank to create virtual lyrics, it's just singing with a specific voice. But then the mascot, which is this like stereotypical anime teenage girl, grew in fame, like in popularity, to become this kind of like having this whole persona and like identity and composing over 10,000 songs. And this speaks about a different kind of virtuosity. This virtuosity is more technical, in the idea or like marketing virtuosity. So the creation of this artist from nothing, this virtual artist, and it becomes massively popular. And that talks about also an idea of immortality, which is this, again, stereotypically just never change the voices identical, so we could, and we can have an infinite amount of songs by turning to as much as we want. It's very capitalistic, very
very patriarchal as well, especially in Japan, where there's this notion of women frozen in time that are not subject to entropy and aging and all the other things, wonderful things that happen to us as human beings as we get older. So but it's not to say that it's just from here you get all the what we call the rapparitions, the rappers in America, the dead rappers that then get holographically projected in concert. So A.C.A, ODB, Old Dirty Bastard from Wu-Tang Clan, a number of them have now played concerts or been in concerts with Eminem and Snoop Dogg, etc. So it's also it's a growing market as well, holographic pop stars. And that takes us to the final point of our this trajectory as well, which is we're going to talk about AI. So we've already alluded to this, I guess, in many ways, but we're going to end up with AI production. Online platforms such as Suno, for example, and authenticity. Lots of questions around creativity, authenticity, IP, legality. Obviously, there's lots of interesting stuff going on at the moment with AI, with legal cases. You've got New York Times are suing OpenAI for use of the New York Times to train the bots or to train AI with the data that they produce. Suno, the same thing. You've got the 3 largest record companies in the world suing Suno at the moment for uses of music in their platform, so using it as training data. The outcomes of both these will be massively pivotal in terms of the way that we progress with AI and what's legal, what's permissible to use as training data and what's not. So a lot of artists are up in arms about AI. Everybody seems up in arms about the use of AI at the moment, including like really influential newspapers like The Guardian, who just seem to be continually railing against the use of AI, creativity for any reason in general. Very negative, constant negative stream of articles, which I think is massively unuseful. Timbaland, however, the music producer Timbaland is exactly the opposite. So as a music producer, really interesting, because one of the first kind of areas of music that really got impinged on by AI was music production and mastering, because those services have been around online for 4 or 5 years now. So you can basically send in a song and say, I want this mixing and mastering in the style of Timbaland, and it will do an amazing job on it. It'll sound like Timbaland or Pharrell Williams. I want it to sound like Pharrell Williams mastered this song. So it impinges on people such as Timbaland, but as you'll see, Timbaland is very effusive and he loves it.
My brother created God. And we know that there's a lot of talk about AI, and we know how the feelings of violating certain things, but let me tell you something. I got a solution. I'm working on it. It's going to be beneficial to everybody. But in the meantime, I got to share something I've been working on, because I always wanted to do this, and I never got a chance to. I always wanted to work with big, and I never got a chance to. Until today, it came out right. Blade.
see how he's excited about AI. He's one of the biggest proponents. Like, I'd say probably the biggest proponent. He works with he's worked with Suno. I don't know what will happen if they get, well, they're going to lose that. I think they'll lose that case of litigation against them. But anyway, we'll see. But it's interesting to see that kind of, he doesn't have the anxiety. He wants to work with AI, which I think is the only way that we can be thinking. I think this whole anxiety around authenticity and around the human spirit and creativity and blah, blah, blah. It's just like, we've used tools forever. We've used technology forever, especially in music production. We had the same kind of anxiety around samplers. I don't know if you remember when samplers started coming into being, and people were like, oh God, you can basically sample any type of music. You don't have to be able to play it. You don't have to be able to play a violin anymore. You can just sample it and put it in a song. It's the death of music. It's the death of live music. It's the death of everything. Of course, it's not the death of everything. And what's really interesting is that an underrepresented people in America who have been constantly fucked over by the music industry and by capitalism take that and make it something incredibly beneficial. And make incredible music with it in terms of obviously rap music, and then you get all the footwork and drill and everything else that comes out of rap as a result. So, yeah, have you got anything else to say about that? That's kind of the end of our arc. So we started with the devil, we started with the otherworldliness of the devil, and then we moved through the spiritualism and Rosemary Brown. So another kind of sense of otherworldliness. And we went to
virtual otherworldliness. Yeah, I think with Triple this also very smart from him, like knowing that it's going to be affected somehow. His work is going to be affected by AI. It's much more useful, much smarter to start working with it and be be part of it instead of like just building a wall. Oh, I don't want this.
So everything that we're talking about there is kind of things that impinge on this notion of authentic creativity.
Authorship.
It's always an authorship.
Where ends the author, when it begins.
Yeah. Distributed notions of authorship, which have always been with us, but it's obviously with AI now it's becoming, because it affects everybody. And AI affects us all. Every time you pick up the phone, you're using AI. Every time you open your computer, you're going to be using something that's connected to AI. So there's that kind of distributed, just the omnipotence of it as well, that I think causes the massive anxieties that we have around it. I think on that, maybe we'll stop there, and if anyone's got questions or thoughts. Oh man, what time is it now? How long have we gone massively over time?
After 4.
Oh no, we haven't. No, it's just 70. I don't know why it's running at 75. Okay, so okay.
It's 4. It's perfect.
Okay.
Any questions?
So I have questions.
Yep.
You said there's books, and this is part of a larger project that is a book. You said. What were the categories?
Film, a book.
TV play, but yeah, immersive installation and a soundtrack. So it's
for a video game as well.
You might do a video game, but it's generally the idea is to push across a lot of different media and push the project through. But the other channels, are, oh God. What are the other channels?
Well, there's one about animal intelligence and communication with animals, and it goes from what talks about like John Lilly, psychedelic, and to like AI user. But then there is
because there's a lot of apps. There's a lot of AI apps which are trying to solve the animal-human communication. So there's a lot of really interesting work. I don't think it'll be too long until that gets figured out. I think within 10 years we'll be able to talk to animals. Like not in the way we talk, but there will be a way of communicating pretty directly with animals.
Come here, Fido, and Fido goes vroom.
And then it'll be like, give me some fucking food. Stop saying come here, just give me some food.
There's another one about numerology that can map the numbers as magic. So there's use of numerology in the past, and then Where does it go to?
I'm trying to think of what they are. What else have we got? House, we've done.
Naturalism.
Yeah, we've got that one. Data twins. So we've got Edison's, looking at Edison's doll, looking at Edison's dolls and stone tape theory. To unbindly, which is a recorded. They press records, but they press records with the ashes of dead people into the polyvinyl carbonate. So you can hear, and then you can hear the bumps and the bumps of the ashes.
So they make compilations of the favorite music of the first.
And then through to data twins and the notion of the data twins.
Repository of riveted waveforms, that's what.
What else have we got? We've got Sig Sally, voice prints, Sig Sally, Paul Foster Case, the soul, like constructed languages like soul, musical cryptograms, and all the way to voice prints, which voice prints are protection, it's encryption software. So the way we talk, it's something that recognizes our voices. And basically what it's really interesting is that it takes your voice, but it splits it into millions of parameters in terms of understanding the difference between that your voice, you saying this, or somebody else saying this, can be split into millions of parameters. It's a really safe form of encryption. So numerous others, a number of others, and I said those will form a book, which we're writing at the moment, and then we're making a film with Michael England in the UK. With amazing filmmaking. So, yeah.
I have a question that's irrelevant to this. How did you two meet?
Well, my supervisor on my PhD. So,
easy answer.
Just moved to the UK a few years ago for the PhD and then started working together and other stuff. I still have to finish my PhD, which is a bit like, I was like, kind of like more and more things. Tonight at the airport and most of it. That's it. And we share a lot of interest about like sound and magical ways and stuff. Huh?
Are you from the UK?
I'm
Italian. And then Holy Alliance. English and Italian. Doesn't happen very often.